Look, Sheriff, you haul me in just to bug me with this kid. While you're wasting your time, I'm not gonna listen.
Well,
Sheriff, you bring me in just to bother me with this kid while you waste time. I'm not going to pay attention. Okay, this is how Andy Griffith really was, even though his fans loved him. Andy Griffith destroyed the whole Mayberry courthouse set on November 22, 1963. He hit walls, threw chairs, and broke props. The cast did not move as America's favorite cop lost it. It wasn't about Kennedy's death. Here, Andy showed his real face. The man who taught us about good morals in small towns slept with his co-stars. On set he made grown men cry. His own adopted son died with a letter asking him to forgive him in it. Everyone in Hollywood knew that Andy Griffith was not at all like Travis Taylor. He was born in Mount Airy, North Carolina, on June 1, 1926. They were so poor that they couldn't even buy a crib. Andy slept in furniture drawers for the first few months of his life. They tried to make them soft by lining them with old pieces of cloth. Their one-room house didn't have much running water, and the cold got in through cracks in the walls. It was a rough start that hurt a lot. His mother, Geneva, felt bad about what she did. People around her would cry as she told them how ashamed she was. Andy also felt it. That shame got worse and heavier. He was afraid of being poor again even when he was a child. At age 5 he was already making sure that food was stored and doors were locked. He had to be in charge. He needed to be safe. And that fear turned into a strong desire. Carl Lee Griffith, his father, worked as a helper for a builder. He made about $8 a week when he had work. He worked only 3 or 4 days a week most of the time. He would come home with wood chips in his hands, and Geneva would use candles to help him get them out. Andy watched his dad count coins by the light of a lamp at night, hoping that there would be enough money for food and gas. It wasn't always the case. Their house was on the wrong side of the tracks for the train, because of how bad the area was known for. Andy had to walk 2 miles to school so no one would know where he lived. He would always feel ashamed of himself. He became obsessed with money later in life and negotiated every deal down to the last penny. People in Hollywood called him a miser, but he was really scared of going back to where he came from. Geneva worked hard to make him look good. Just to look nice, she washed and pressed his few clothes, even his shoelaces. But that didn't work out. Richer kids made fun of him. They knew he wasn't rich. Being honest about how bad he was got him in trouble. Andy got a stutter that didn't go away until he was 14 years old because of it. He began to make people laugh. He protected himself with jokes. He thought that they would stop picking on him if he could make them laugh. He was making walls inside though. He started to think that having a job, being helpful, entertaining, and safe were what made him valuable. He lived the rest of his life with that idea. At a school play he had one of his first emotional breakdowns. He was 8 years old. During a Christmas show he forgot his lines and ran off stage. For 6 hours he locked himself in the coal pit. Something was different when he came out. His teacher said that his eyes were cold and looked different. His mother also saw it. Andy would get really sad after that, and he would get very angry if he felt embarrassed or rejected. He hit a boy with a rock once because he laughed at his pants. The boy had to have 12 stitches. Those storms from childhood never really went away. After many years they came back on Hollywood sets. He could erupt yelling, firing crew members, and making grown men cry if he felt threatened or insulted. He was known as the Mount Airy Monster by people in the business. But that angry kid also wanted to grow up and do big things. Andy dreamed of becoming an opera singer when he grew up. He thought about becoming a Moravian preacher later on. In 1944 he went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill to study religion. But music was more interesting to him. Instead he turned to music and graduated in 1949. He was the first person in his family to finish college. As a student at UNC, he was in operettas, and was in charge of the school music group. He was in shows like HMS Pinafore and The Mikado. This training would shape the role he would play on TV years later. Sheriff Andy Taylor was quiet and sure of himself because he practiced music hard and went to church, which taught him morals. When Andy got out of college, he taught music at a Whiteville high school. He had 2 lives for 3 years. He taught choir and theater during the day. At night he and his wife Barbara worked on comic routines. They put on shows at North Carolina social clubs. His jokes and stories got funnier over time. There was one act that made people laugh every time. It was about a person from that country who didn't understand sports. He also did the historical outdoor play The Lost Colony in Montejo every summer. At first he had small parts, but in the end he played Sir Walter Raleigh. He had steady work, his confidence grew, and he got his first real applause in that part. He really liked the Outer Banks, so much so that he bought land there and asked to be buried there when the time came. Then in 1953, he finally got it. A small studio in Chapel Hill taped the routine that he and Barbara had worked on and made better. It was football. Andy froze up in front of the mic at first. It took 5 tries to get it right, but as soon as they got a clean copy it spread like wildfire. In just a few weeks, 50,000 copies of the song were sold. Capitol Records bought it, and it went on to sell almost 800,000. It got to number 9 on the Billboard lists. Everything changed in that one moment. Andy went on the Ed Sullivan Show in early 1954. Suddenly the man who used to sleep in a dresser drawer was known all over the country. Andy Griffith looked like a great American star. People thought he was a nice guy from a small town with a warm smile. Behind the scenes though, things were much worse. His rise to fame in the 1950s had a dark side. As he became more famous, things got worse in his personal life. It all began in 1955. Griffith was up for a Tony Award for his part in No Time for Sergeants. The play began at the Alvin Theatre, and went on to be seen 796 times. From the outside it looked like a win, but Griffith was already breaking down on the inside. Later cast members said he drank a lot, had violent mood swings, and ran the set by making everyone afraid. After that, George Lindsay, who worked with him on the Andy Griffith Show, said that most of the group was scared of him. Griffith would only call players after each show that he liked. They feared the next day if the phone didn't ring. It wasn't just one time. It began early and didn't end. After 2 years, in 1957, Griffith made his first movie, A Face in the Crowd. In the role he played a nice guy who turns evil when he gets famous. The part was eerily like real life. The critics really liked it, but they didn't know how much this figure resembled the real Andy Griffith. Griffith had chairs brought to the set so he could smash them to get into the part. He had to get to his real anger. That anger wasn't made out of thin air. It was inside him. It didn't stay in the movies. Griffith became very famous after going on the Ed Sullivan Show and the Steve Allen Show. He even shared the stage with Elvis Presley in 1956, when Presley sang Hound Dog to a real basset hound. 40 million people watched that show. Griffith was rapidly becoming well known, but his fame made him cocky. The people who worked with him saw the change. He was rude, expected special care, and thought less of other people. It was hard for him to hide his growing ego when he wasn't on camera. He fell deeply in love with Barbara Bray Edwards before they got married in 1949. Their lives changed when they moved to New York together after meeting in college. She was by his side for 23 years, through good times and bad. They took in 2 kids together, but even with her help, he couldn't stop drinking or cheating on her. Friends said that the mood at home was so tense that no one wanted to go over. Griffith's smile in public hid a mess in his private life. He was stealing before the Andy Griffith Show started in 1960. He cheated on his wife Barbara with actress Joanna Moore while they were still married. Public didn't know what people in the industry knew. That picture of a good person was already not true. Griffith used his fame to get girls, but he pretended to be a good husband the whole time. But his relationship with Annetta Corso, who played Helen Crump, was the most well-known. He became a part of the show in 1963. Andy took a big fall. He asked her to marry him more than once while they were married. She always said no to him. However, they kept seeing each other. It was told to everyone. Even though they tried to hide it, everyone on set knew. As a joke, one day the team sent a fake waiter to bring them dinner in their hotel room. It was clear what was going on when he walked in. Griffith was very angry, but the damage had already been done. It was hard to ignore the affair any longer. Griffith did very bad things to protect his image. He would cut out scenes where Andy Taylor and Helen Crump were making out. People shouldn't have been able to connect the dots. In 1964, there was a scene where he was meant to kiss Helen outside of the office. He stopped the practice and suggested that they just look at each other and make love. He told the director it was more moral, but he was really trying to hide the affair from the public, donors, and the press. When no one was around, he lost his cool very quickly. He lost it and ripped up the set during season 2 of the Andy Griffith Show. He hit props, cabinets and walls with his fists. A lot of the time Don Knotts stayed late to calm him down. The actors were careful. Everyone in Mayberry knew that the sheriff could get scary out of the blue. His actions got worse. In the end, Griffith said that Sheriff Andy Taylor was the person he wanted to be but wasn't. He told the Saturday Evening Post in 1964 that he got really angry, really quickly. Those Hollywood parties scared him because he thought he wouldn't be able to handle them. He said that he wasn't calm and wise like his role, but rather nervous and uncertain. There was more and more space between the man and the idea. People in charge at CBS knew they had a problem. The look of the show was everything. It was about family, small-town ideals, and being honest. People could bring down the kingdom if they learned the truth. This led the network to start a cover-up. The interviews were managed. Access to the set was limited. People in the cast were told to be quiet. If a scandal broke, sponsors said they would pull millions of dollars worth of ads. It was too dangerous for everyone. Griffith kept cheating even after all of this. The one he had with Joanna Moore wasn't the only one. It wasn't even the worst. Moore was only in 4 episodes of the show. People who knew her said it wasn't an accident that she left soon after the affair. After many years, she only had nice things to say, but she left quickly and quietly. Corsaw and the affair went on for years. Griffith never married Annetta, even after he and Barbara got a divorce in 1972. He asked her to be on his later shows, like Matlock and the 1993 reunion special, but she always said no. Their link never really stopped. It was love, not just a fling. It cost something though. Franz Bavier never felt like he was really seen. Everyone else laughed at Andy Griffith and Don Knotts' antics, but she sat quietly in the background, angry, annoyed, and bitter. She once said, "I've had to sit back and watch other people laugh." It was something she always felt. She saw Aunt Bev become the straight character on the Andy Griffith Show for all 8 seasons. The one who held the pie while the guys told the jokes. Bavier had hired a professional. She wanted to be more than just a nice aunt in a small southern town. She stayed in the background every week while Andy and Don stole the show and won over the crowd. She told the press about it. She didn't try to hide how angry she was. It was felt by everyone on set. Francis went to treatment because the stress got too high. It wasn't just anger any longer. It hurt, one that went deep and stayed there. One of the most important triggers, Andy Griffith's love of pulling pranks. It amused him. She felt ashamed of herself. In between takes, he liked to laugh and play around. She wanted to be polite and pay attention. The result was fights every day. Andy made a joke. Francis pulled out. She wasn't having fun. It got worse as she pulled away. She felt more alone. She was hurt very much by the distance, but it also protected her. Most people could see the difference with Don Knotts. Francis later said that in the 8 years they worked together, she had said less than 5 words to him. While they were not on camera, they were quiet. They did scenes together and stood next to each other. There is no hate, just space. She thought he was a great performer. She liked him so much that she said he was like Fred Astaire in terms of charm. He always had a girl on his arm and wore trench coats with the collar up. She saw everything, but she didn't say much. She worked around him, didn't talk to him, and stayed away. Jim saw how much pain there was. He was an honest person that Francis could trust. People in the neighborhood didn't like it when Andy Griffith said something mean about her after a table read, almost in a whisper. He told Andy, "She's a good actress, treat her well." Andy didn't say anything back. In that quiet moment, everything became clear. The actors had picked a side. Franz was by himself except for Jim, and he wasn't just being nice when he spoke up. It was for safety. That pain still wasn't gone after years. Back in the mid-1980s, Andy Griffith and Ron Howard just showed up at Francis Bavier's house in North Carolina without being asked. They wanted to say hello and maybe get back together or make peace, but she wouldn't let them in when she opened the door and saw them. She didn't want to see them again. She didn't want things to end. The door was slammed. That moment said more than words could. She had turned away from everything. The people, not just the show.
The anger had never gone away, and when Andy offered her one last call 4 months before she died, she said she was sorry. "I'm sorry things didn't work out better. I was to blame. I really wish we had." She never said she felt bad about what she did again after that. But Francis wasn't the only one who was angry. Andy Griffith also had his own demons. 5 Emmys were given to Don Knotts for his work as Barney Fife. Andy, who was the show's star, wasn't even mentioned. Not once. The difference scared him. He never told Don about it. Not once. Not even a thank you. It was very quiet. Don's family said Andy just couldn't talk about it. It went too deep. That pain came out at night. He sometimes acts in scary ways, and he once had a dream that he killed Don Knotts. He woke up shaking because he felt so guilty. Don was nowhere to be found. He freaked out. His doctor got a call. He said he was killing the person, not the person himself. But the dream told it all. Jealousy had turned into anger deep down. There it lived in peace for many years. Andy's life took another terrible turn in 1983. He got what felt like the flu, right after getting married to Cindy Knight. It wasn't though. Guillain-Barré syndrome was the cause. The pain was too much to bear. He could no longer walk because of it. He couldn't move for 7 months. He said it hurt like hell and wouldn't stop. He passed out while watching the Kentucky Derby one day. Doctors were not able to help him. His legs were in braces. They made such a loud noise that soundmen could hear them while the movie was being made. He had to take them off. The illness made him old. It broke his soul. It made him even more angry. That wasn't all though. Behind the charming sheriff of Mayberry was a man who was having a hard time with drinking. Andy changed into someone else when he drank. Mean, cruel, and hard to guess. The actors were afraid of him. George Lindsay, who played Goober, said that Monday nights were the worst. Andy would call you if he thought you did a good job. You knew Tuesday would be terrible if he didn't call. Everyone was tense because of his drinking. He went from being friendly and helpful to being very angry very quickly. And the events of November 22, 1963, showed that side the most. Andy lost control when President John F. Kennedy was killed. He tore down the courthouse set out of anger and sadness. There were props thrown. The furniture fell over. He didn't get stopped. Everyone stood back. Don Knotts was the only one who stepped in. He went up to Andy, put his hand on his shoulder and talked to him to calm down. Politics had nothing to do with that day. That story was about a man who was about to lose it. Andy Griffith took Sam Griffith in as his own child when he was very young, in 1957. In 1959 his sister Dixie came along. It looked like a great family from the outside, but after Andy and his wife split up in 1972, things began to go badly. The breakup hurt Sam a lot when he was 15. He started to act out, drink too much and get into trouble. Being the adopted son of the most popular TV dad in the United States made things worse. Sam never thought he belonged. He thought his dad loved Opie, the TV son, more than him. He said he was the family's black sheep. Things got worse for Sam as he got older. His drinking led to drugs, jail time, and a lot of trouble for a long time. Andy did his best to help. He paid $15,000 to get Sam healthy again, but nothing worked. Sam could not get out of the slide. Everything ended in 1996. The person who lived with Sam found him dead in their North Hollywood apartment when he was only 38 years old. His liver failed and cirrhosis took his life. He died from drinking too much. In his hand was a letter to his father in which he begged for another chance. Andy didn't see it. The letter was kept in the room and never left. They had not talked in years. Andy had mentally cut Sam off after he was found guilty of domestic violence. He was so upset that he couldn't even go to the funeral. Dixie went by herself. In the end she said that it broke her dad's heart very badly. She said he was never the same. Andy had been married twice before. He was married to Barbara Bray Edwards for 23 years in his first marriage. They agreed to do something early on. Those who got big would go after the job. Andy did it. Barbara took a step back. They took in Sam and Dixie at the same time, but they couldn't keep the marriage together. In 1972 they got a divorce. Andy got married to a Greek actress named Selika Kasuto in 1973. It went on for 8 years. Then Cindy Knight showed up. Andy met her while they were making a TV movie. She was 27 years old. He was 56 years old. They married in 1983 and stayed together until Andy's death in 1992. Dixie stayed out of the press most of the time. She didn't talk much about her family, but every once in a while she gave a look. She said that becoming famous changed everything. Hollywood didn't feel like summer in North Carolina, but it did in North Carolina. She saw her brother break down. Even though she said Andy wasn't to blame, it hurt him a lot. She thought of her dad as someone who always tried to keep the family safe even when it hurt him. In a strange turn of events, Andy played a drunk father in a TV movie called Under the Influence in 1986. Because he was mean and angry, he drank too much and hurt his family. The performance was honest and even scary. It came out only 10 years before Sam died of drinking. People who saw it didn't know how true to life that part was. Andy had kind of already lived it. In the same year Matlock first aired. After the Andy Griffith Show, it was Andy's biggest hit. It ran from 1986 to 1995 and had 193 episodes. Andy was 60 years old when it began. He played a smart but grumpy lawyer named Ben Matlock who charged $100,000 per case. That's about $240,000 these days. Andy loved the part. He liked it so much that he said it was his favorite. But he was in pain all the time behind the scenes. In 1983, Guillain-Barré syndrome almost made him unable to move. He went to rehab for 7 months and went back to work hurting. Making movies was awful. Every day he was in a lot of pain, but he never let it show. He also got into fights with co-workers. A lot of people left the group of Matlock. Griffith might be tough. He got mad when people on set ate his peanut butter. He wanted darker stories with violence and alcoholism, but the producers said no. He had been angry since the beginning of his career in show business, but he never forgot betrayal even though he praised loyalty. It got worse for him as he got older. He had a heart attack in 2000 and had to have 4 different types of surgery. He still has pain in his feet from Guillain-Barré syndrome. By the early 2000s he knew he didn't have much time left. He went back to his hometown of Mount Airy in 2002. He told the crowd that he was no longer a stranger. But for some it was too late and not enough. He hadn't talked to old friends in decades. He wouldn't even meet them backstage when they came to see him in New York in the 1950s. He shocked everyone in 1997 when he won a Grammy for a gospel record. I enjoy telling stories. He didn't even show up to the event. He didn't think he had a chance. The record sold a lot of copies. It was a return to his beliefs and his roots. As if to try to find peace, it looked like. People who knew him said he hadn't changed much though. He died of a heart attack on July 3, 2012 when he was 86 years old. He died at his North Carolina home on Roanoke Island. He had been in pain for 24 hours before he died. 5 hours later the funeral took place. Fast, private and quiet. Just the way he wanted it. Things kept getting secret after death though. And this was one of the most important ones. During the show's run, Frances Bavier, who played her, hated Andy. He seemed like a child to her. He believed she was cool. They didn't talk much. When he came to visit in 1986, she wouldn't even let him into her house. But she called him to say sorry before she died in 1989. She said, "I'm sorry things didn't work out better between us. I was to blame. No one knew there was a fight until it was over." At the same time, Andy's neighborhood kept acting like it was Mayberry. An event called Mayberry Days, which is built on a lie, brings in $5 million a year for Mount Airy. Andy always said the town didn't have anything to do with the show, but people kept coming. The shops and trips that sell nostalgia don't really sell nostalgia. 8% of the people who live there are black, and they are nowhere to be found in that version of history. It's a fake memory made for tourists who want to escape real life. Andy Griffith was given the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005. He stood with Aretha Franklin and Muhammad Ali. President George W. Bush called him a gift to the country. But the respect was more about the person than the man. Griffith once said, "I wish I were more like Andy Taylor. He's nicer than I am."